That's crazy. That's the thing,
Test. Good. Is it on? Yeah.
Our invocation is We Are One by Reverend Dr. Hope Johnson of blessed memory. Reverend Hope Johnson was a beloved elder in Unitarian Universalism. She served as the Congregational Life Consultant for the UUA's Central East region and the Southern region. She brought specialties in conflict resolution and multicultural congregational development. She delivered this meditation at UU General Assembly in 2013. We are one, a diverse group of proudly kindred spirits, here not by coincidence, but because we choose to journey together. We are active and proactive. We care deeply. We live our love as best we can. We are one, working, eating, laughing, playing, singing, storytelling, sharing and rejoicing, getting to know each other, taking risk, opening up, questioning, seeking, searching, trying to understand, struggling, making mistakes, paying attention, asking questions, listening, living our answers, learning to love our neighbors, learning to love ourselves, apologizing, forgiving with humility, and being forgiven with grace, creating a beloved community together. We are one. I invite you now to rise and body your spirit for our opening hymn, Wake Now Our Senses.
Keep with Morning, y'all. It is so good to see you here today, each and every one of you. So when Reverend Chris told me the theme for his worship service today was coming home, the first thing that came to my mind was this reading from Starhawk. There's a phrase in it that caught me the first time I heard it, going on 30 years ago, and it stayed with me ever since. We are all longing to go home to a place we've never been before. And I think of that phrase again now that we're stepping back into things that should feel familiar. And I don't know about you, but this is true for me. Every time I've stepped back into something this year, there's been this vague feeling that it ought to be a lot more comfortable than it is. And that phrase keeps coming back to me. We are longing to go home to a place we've never been. In a very real sense, this future that we are living in is a different place than the past we were expecting to be part of again. And this reading, Community Means Strength, this is so much of what I would hope for our children, for our families, for our elders, for all of us, really. Listen and see if it is the coming home that you are dreaming of too. We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere, a circle of hands will reach open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength. Strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing. A circle of friends, someplace where we can be free.
And so welcome to the Unitarian Church. My name is Nathan. I'm one of your ministers. I'm really, really glad to welcome you today. We have a few announcements. Most of them are interesting, unlike last week. So for those who weren't here last week, we talked a lot about the fact that there's a camp here. It's not our camp. It's just here. So you're not missing out on being in camp. But what I would like for you to know is during middle hour, for those of you who are online, you can still come down if you're geographically able. And we're starting it's a cool name, a friendship camp for elementary kids. We're doing a summer youth group all summer for youth. And starting June 19th, a member of our own congregation, Leslie Grover, is going to be offering an art and storytelling workshop during the middle hour. This is open to everyone, so all of those are available for you. So I just want you to know to be able to take advantage of it. This Sunday, we'll talk about in just a second, but going forward, next Sunday is our annual Pride service. We hope you'll be able to come with us again next week. And June 19th, our interim minister, Reverend Eric Posa, it'll be his last Sunday with us. So we are going to say goodbye to him on the 19th. And then the following Sunday, we're having a guest minister, Reverend Darcy Roque, who's coming in out of New Orleans. She's phenomenal. So you are in for a treat for the whole month. But you can clap for... But today we have a special guest who will not be a special guest soon, although if you want to get theological, we're all special guests, whatever. We have with us the Reverend Chris Long, who is our very soon-to-be Minister of Congregational Life, which is to say he doesn't start until July 18th. He's just here for this week to meet you, to get the lay of the land, all of that kind of stuff. We did a nationwide search. We were actually talking to the search committee last night that started last August to find, the search committee talked to you figured out what you were looking for, what you were hoping for in the future of this church. We did a nationwide search, and we found someone who, so we went to Starr King School for the Ministry and advised at Starr King School for the Ministry, has served in Madison, Wisconsin, Cleveland, Ohio, and New York City. He is, we just got really lucky. He got lucky too. This is a great church, but we're very, very happy to have him. So without further ado, Reverend Chris Long, your Minister of Congregational Life.
Entering sacred ground is always a blessing. Yes, I have my notes and I've lost my place, but that's okay. I'm okay with losing my place. Good morning. Good morning. It is good to be together here at the Unitarian Church of what? The Unitarian Church of what? And to be here with those who are at home or wherever you may find yourselves. As we prepare for this morning's prayer, I invite you to take a look around. Look who is here. Look around, look around. Some of us haven't been here in a few months, even years. Those on live stream, we are holding you in our hearts and minds. I look forward to getting to know you. Others may be brand new, and I don't know if we ask you to raise your hand here, but may you find what you seek here. Here in this place of history, and that is very much alive. This place holds all of our uncertainties during this difficult time in community. If it's okay, before I begin our prayer, I'd like to do a welcome of a beloved colleague who came up from New Orleans, the Reverend Sarah Denji Green, and their family, and our newest Unitarian Universalist right here in the first few row. That's welcome. Your activism and active is welcome here. Amen. Before I begin this morning's prayer, I would like to seek permission of the local indigenous communities whose lands we occupy. For this is sacred, holy ground, multiple layers over. I pray my words honor their legacy. I would also like to invite the ancestors to be with us, here, now, yours and mine. For I believe we cannot do any of this sacred, holy work alone. This morning's prayer. Spirit of life, universe, Holy One, God. We gather on this special day in the life of this amazing congregation. We gather in a city, a state, a nation that is as conflicted as ever, where the COVID pandemic continues to take on its many forms. So we must protect our most vulnerable until all are safe. We gather some in sadness, anger, disillusionment, and with all that is going on. Inflation, not seen in decades, is rising and rising, and gas prices and costs of food are too. And yes, gun violence continues to claim the lives of too many. Just last night in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 14 were shot, 3 killed. In the week leading up to this, there was 2 murdered at a church parking lot in Ames, Iowa, not to mention Tulsa, Oklahoma. in Uvalde, Texas, Buffalo, New York, and the list goes on and on. Spirit, please be with those families who have lost their loved ones as we as a country search our souls for the moral clarity to act and to act now, amen. Precious Spirit, which does hold us all even now as the wars of the world over rage on, may we continue to demand that peace is the only answer. As we are just starting LGBTQAAI Pride Month, we must celebrate how far we as a world have come towards justice and equity on this front, and we must hold fast to the realities that our transgender youth and their families and trans persons overall are still in the crosshairs of some state legislatures across the country that need our steadfast attention. Great Spirit, as we gather this morning, may we know that even as things are as complex as ever, may we also know that our time together to worship is a part of the answer. Be with us now and always. Amen. Ashe, salam, shalom, and blessed be. I invite you to remain seated as we sing our next hymn, How Could Anyone?
We're not going to sing. We're not going to sing right now. We are right now. We're doing the part of the service where we mention what people are going through, and right now we have an interesting mix. So there are a number. We have cards out there for you to sign for those who would. Who are able, we are going to be recognizing those who are becoming adults, or at least graduating high school, and one who's graduating college. And we're going to send a thinking of you card to Bobby Thompson, who is recovering after a hospitalization. I've seen him, his family's been with him, but he'll be out, I think, today. So this ritual we have is open to everybody, visitor and member alike. We invite those who wish to come forward either along the west or the east wall. Take a stone, let it represent whatever's on your heart, whatever's on your mind, whatever is maybe weighing you down or you've just been holding on to. Place it in the chalice bowl. Maybe you'll be a little more at peace. We now invite those who wish to come forward as we place stones. we say together, with hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is a symbol of the power of love.
Truth.
Somewhere within dwells the soul of a boy and childhood dreams of Illinois, with thoughts of home again, whose summers of youth are long gone by a returning stranger, is the reason why it's not easy to go home again. Why tell a soul who I am? Would anyone really give a damn on the streets of home again? A solemn stroll through rolling hills, gaze reminiscent on dusty fields, the aroma of home again. An old house sits atop the hill, the swing on the porch is swinging still, memories of home again. Down the road to the aging church, again I feel the glow of old folks' touch. So near, it's almost home again. Autumn encroaching, the kids are in line, the classroom, the books and recess time and sounds of home again. Mirage in the midst of a desert waste, a faint illusion of another place, that vision of home again.
When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home, I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing. Wind that makes the tall trees bend into leaning. Suddenly the snowflakes that fall have a meaning, sprinkling the scene makes it all clean. Well, maybe there's a chance for me to go back there now that I have some direction. It would sure be nice to be back home where there's love and affection.
Thank you, Lee and Ms. Marie Flowers, for sharing such a lovely rendition of Home from the musical Wiz, The Wiz. Let's give it up one more time. Please. When I think of home, I think of a place where love is overflowing. My chance to meet many of you has finally come. As I start my offering this morning, I would like to give thanks and gratitude to the many people here that have made our coming together possible, starting with, you see his head tilt, starting with Reverend Nathan Ryan. Let's give it up for Reverend Nathan Ryan. As some of you may know, Reverend Nathan and I had the opportunity to be a part of a cohort of 30 Unitarian Universalist ministers that spent time in study, reflection, and justice-focused witness from the fall of 2017 through January of 2019. And the search committee, as Reverend Nathan alluded to, who were selected to engage a faithful, rigorous process of calling me y'all's next, or first, I think, minister of congregational life. This committee, as you already may know by now, or if you don't, was Becky, it was Leslie, it was Don, it was also Lenore Heavey, who, as some of you may know, is a state attorney, an attorney and working in the State House, and is literally working today in the State House, so would not be able to join us. And then we have Ed, who's in the Tree House, technology magic. Can we give it up for Ed and the search committee for all the work that they have done? I cannot possibly thank you, each of you separately or together, enough for your work, your ministry, and of course, all of you who are so deeply dedicated to the life and transformative possibilities this congregation has held and will hold towards more possibilities in the coming days, weeks, months. Amen? Amen. Amen. My family and ancestors would like to thank you for the opportunity to serve here in just a few short weeks. Today's sermon topic and theme, I'm coming home, UCBR and CML, striving towards widening the circle. Is that going to be okay? I'm coming home. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee on April 24th, 1968, just 20 days after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was murdered. Born of my mother, Shirley Mae Jones Long, and my father, Bang Long Jr., both of blessed memory. My full name is Christopher Myro Long. My middle name was from a Catholic priest of my father's childhood who cared for him after a long hospital stay. The Long is from the 1/8 Chinese aspect of my ethnic and cultural identity, which was changed from its original Cantonese Chinese from Lung to Long when my ancestors migrated to this country. The additional 7/8% of me is 70% of the African diaspora and many other ethnicities of the world, according to my Ancestry.com profile from 4 years ago. I spent the first 10 years of my life in Memphis, Tennessee, in my family of origin, in a multi-generational home with my father, my sister, Reverend Kimberly Nichols, and our paternal grandfather, Larry Lamar, our aunt, Laura Lamar, and our cousin, Toby. Sadly, my mother died giving birth to my stillborn little brother on June 6, 1969. Yet, she is never far from my heart and my thoughts. My father would remarry in the late 1970s, thus merging our family of 3 to a family of 8, adding 4 siblings to our lives. For the next 4 decades, I would have the opportunity to live, work, pray, and play in what will soon be 8 different states: Tennessee, Illinois, Texas, Wisconsin, Ohio, California, New York City, and soon, New York City is not a state, New York, and soon here in Louisiana, amen? Many of those moves have had to do with me being on a search to follow, to find, and to lean into my life's calling as I better understand it now. This includes being a community college graduate from Joliet Junior College in Joliet, Illinois, the oldest community college in our country. Whoop, whoop. A graduate of the Illinois State University with a Bachelor of Science in Recreational Therapy, taking graduate courses at the graduate level business courses in business administration from Cleveland State University. Whoop, whoop. You know Cleveland State? Whoop, whoop. All right, Ohio's in the house, and my Master's of Divinity, as Reverend Nathan has said, from Star King School for the Ministry in Berkeley, California, then, and now it's in Oakland, California, in 2009. With living, working, and being ordained nearly 13 years, next Tuesday will be my 13th anniversary of my ordination, living across, whoop, whoop. All right, that's been a long 13 years, y'all. I am coming home, home to the southern part of the United States and to the roots of my ancestral lineage. From what I know, this includes Mississippi, Tennessee, and now Louisiana. I'm humbled and grateful to be here with you all now. Please remain seated for our next hymn, How Could Anyone?
The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had really warned them about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
Thank you so very much, Ed. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Dear ones, the second portion of today's sermon is UCBR and CML, the acronyms for this church, and as I shared earlier, my initials. I will briefly share of my understanding and initial impressions of the history, mission, and vision of this church. Then I will share a snapshot of my religious journey that led us to coming together on this road, less traveled, where I hope we can co-create from the rich, fertile soil that already exists here towards an even more common road for connection, a deepening of our personal and UU faith, which may lead to restoration in all of its many forms as we move onward. As some of you well know, this congregation is known within these walls, within Baton Rouge, and I would say around the state, if not the country, as the church that See, I knew it. I would just have to say the church that shows up, yes. As early as the 1940s, according to the church's archival records, a liberal religious community was forming here in Baton Rouge. Since then, UCBR has been known as the outlandish religion that, all right, and somebody's clapping on outlandish religion, we can do that. That from its start was asked to move out from some of its former homes, including the old state capitol building, because its work was too out there for the city officials and members of the community around its activism and values. You have had a legacy of strong ministers, from the very first being Reverend Edgar T. Toby Van Buren, to Reverend Glenn Turner. Then in 1983, you would call your third, now Minister Emeritus, the Reverend Steve J. Trump, who served for... Crump! Oh, did I say Trump?
That's all right.
Reverend Crump, I pray that you're watching and all... See, I like humor, right? You know, that's not even a Freudian slip, that's a whole nother slip, but at least I digress. And we have had Minister Amy Salmon, who served 10 months. And in November of 2020, you called Reverend Nathan, who has gone from being your assistant minister, then your associate minister for the better part of 8 years, and to be our senior minister. Amen? 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 I have had the pleasure since Tuesday of meeting with the staff and a few smaller groups within the congregation, and just yesterday, at a little bit too early in the morning, I attended your annual board meeting retreat. Let's give it up for your board who worked from 8 until 3:30 yesterday. There is a lot of holy, sacred health happening here at UCBR. The staff, as you may well know, is hardworking, joy-filled, and dedicated and deeply involved in the mission and vision of this church, even though some do not identify as Unitarian Universalist. And you, as this will be my second ministry position since being ordained, and in my travels around the country and in my deep dedication to the movement of Unitarian Universalism overall, I have seen congregations that are engaging our highest UU values and ideals in the entire congregation. Friends, and in my early observations, this is also such a congregation, amen? Your dedication to this congregation, it's decades long in the streets and at the State House action for transformative justice is extraordinary. Your dedication to each other and to the expanding power and transformative love, let you talk, let's let them talk, that's part of the service, is known, your dedication to Unitarian Universalism is known far and wide in the community and around the state. The holy work has been and will continue, amen? Where our religious roads meet, a very brief snapshot of my religious trajectory up to this day. I was born into a family deeply submerged in Black Catholicism, African American, Methodist Episcopal Zionism, and attended some services in Black Baptist churches, which are the foundations of my religious understandings from my early childhood through my teens and early 20s. As some of us know too well around early adulthood, the realities of gender justice, full inclusion of LGBTQAAI community, and the teachings of many mainline churches create exclusion, trauma, and sometimes a complete severing from the religions of our childhood. Many are left without a faith home, or even more damaging, any community at all. During this period in my life, I went through such a religious desert for nearly 10 years, until I happened into James Reeb Unitarian Universalist Church in Madison, Wisconsin in the fall of 1999. Can I get an amen already? From September of that year through December 12th, I found what felt like a soul mine of riches, not perfection, that has been the elixir that feeds me religiously and spiritually in ways that increase my soul's desire to spread the good news of this living faith tradition. Amen? Amen?
And so with that, just so you know, every week we share our offering with organizations that are doing good works out in the world. We share it, which means we don't give it all away, but we don't keep it all. Because this church only exists because of your support. You're only here because of congregants who existed long before many of us were here. So we are both giving to support Unitarian Universalism in this state, which desperately needs it. And also this month we are sharing with Diversity House, which does some amazing, amazing work in the community. You're going to hear about it all month, but I will ask you to get here's the other thing. I was going to do the impassioned plea, but here's the other thing. Under no circumstance should you ever pay for services rendered in this church. Your giving is not a saying, all right, we're glad that Reverend Chris is here, we're going to give more. And wouldn't it be great if on the first Sunday you were here, there were $30,000 collected today? I don't know. Anyway, I'll just leave. I will leave that there. Whatever you give is gratefully received. Half of it, if it's $3 or $30,000. For anyone who has a $30,000 bill, you're welcome to. This is a great place to deposit that. Anyway, however much you give will be gratefully shared right down the middle with Diversity House. This morning's offering will now be given and received.
We are on a journey toward redemption. We have lived a year filled with lamentation, with the strength of generations, the failures of the everyday, and the deep down gritty messiness that is the promise of our salvation. There is inherent goodness that exists between and among us. I want to honor the weary, ragged miracle that is our living tradition.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt's Widening the Circle Theology quote. If I may, I'd like to read this again to underscore its import for where I think we all are in this moment. In this moment, as a world, a country, and yes, as a living, breathing, religious, spiritual movement, we are yet at another crossroads, a tipping point of which we may or will continue to build towards beloved community or regress. Again, Dr. Betancourt's quote was shared at the Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly, the annual meeting of thousands of Unitarian Universalists in 2018. We are on a journey toward redemption. We have lived a year filled with lamentation, with strength of generations, the failures of the everyday, and the deep down gritty messiness that is the promise of our salvation. There is inherent goodness that exists between and among us, and I want to honor the weary, ragged miracle that is our living tradition. Friends, our world is in a state of distress, despair, climate devastation, and so much more. And yet, this is still an amazing, beautiful, and life-producing planet. Amen? Where are we as a congregation? And having a chance to take in Reverend Nathan's sermon from last week, we are indeed coming into a hot mess of a summer. Y'all here last week? Some of us are beset with ambiguity, and he suggested that we engage in a spiritual practice of being okay with things being unclear or unknown. He also shared we are in what some are calling the great unraveling, where divorce, depression, rising inflation, and addiction are as high as ever. And even with all of this, ours is a faith which encourages us through our works to build, nurture, sustain, and grow the beloved community. Amen? My question, however, is this a place, a church, where our fire of commitment to the mission and vision of this congregation can begin to bring those not here since the start of the pandemic back home? Is this a place where that can happen? Is this a place where we are willing to work on widening the circle of deeper personal and faith practices within and beyond these walls? Is this a place where we can, over time, increase our footprint in a more equitable education system and in equitable health care for those most impacted by our dysfunctional system? I don't think this is a place where we can do that. Is this a place where LGBTQAI families and friends can hold their head high and be nurtured and held with certainty, the certainty that some are trying to steal from them and us? Is this a place and where women can be made own decisions about what can happen with their bodies? Is this a place where the fire of commitment can be built and sustained through our current pandemic realities for 3, 5, 10 years to widen the circle? Is this a place of justice, love, and mercy? I don't know. I don't know. But I feel we can do this long, hard work in sustainable, challenging, and, yes, loving ways. Y'all, I believe we can and must do this holy work for the rest of our days. Ashe. Amen. Shalom and blessed be. Please, I invite you to rise and sing in body or spirit and join in singing the Fire of Commitment.
Free from
today's benediction, Reverend Nathan and I invite you into a litany with us that was created by the Reverend Leslie Takahashi. She is the lead minister for the Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church in Walnut Creek, California. After Reverend Nathan and I read a phrase, I invite you to join us in saying, "We are connected." Let's practice. We are connected. Despite distance and fear.
Despite loneliness and change.
Across different experiences and lives.
Even in the face of inevitable losses of life.
When we wish to laugh.
When we need to mourn.
Across a nation divided.
When we dance alone in a room.
In the heat of the sun.
In the glow of the stars.
Across the limits of our imaginations.
Even when nature trembles.
I am truly humbled and grateful to have been able to co-create today's worship with you all. Let us go out and bless the world in the spirit of love. May it be so, ashe and amen.